Hello and welcome back to Dry Conversations. I'm your host, Whitney Cowell. Joining me today is Lindsay Austin. Hey, Lindsay.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Good. It's good to talk to you. I am excited because I actually don't really know much about your story. So this is the first for myself and probably everybody else that's listening to this right now.
Okay.
So first off, let's just do an introduction. Tell me and everybody else a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you've been up to recently.
Yeah, so my name is Lindsay, and I recently opened a non-alcoholic bar in Maryville, Tennessee. I've been sober from alcohol for about 4.5 years now, and that just kind of ignited a lot of questions around what am I going to do socially now, because a lot of my social interactions were centered around alcohol. And so I originally started a group called Sober in Knoxville, where we just did sober events all together. And it might even be just like regular events, but you were with a sober group. So it just kind of made it nicer. And that just kind of bloomed into this bigger idea for an actual space.
I love that. How many people would come out to those events?
It varied. It really, I mean, weather was a big factor. So, but I would say anywhere from 3 people to 20 people one time when we had like a summer picnic.
That's a massive group. I love that caught on.
Yeah, it was really fun for the time that I did it.
And so now you've started a new venture, and that's new. It just opened up not that long ago, right?
Yeah, we just opened up November 1st, and it's just been really cool. I mean, I've been sharing my story a lot because of it, so that's kind of fun. Actually, kind of the first time that I've been asked to share my story a lot as a result of the bar, really.
Yeah.
And so it's been a lot, but there's times where we have events and we have people in, or we have one person come in, and it just kind of reiterates why we opened the space.
Yeah. And so I'm curious because we're in the same age bracket. 4.5 years ago meant getting sober young.
Yeah.
And like you said, that changes your social group, and you're in a city that is a party town, which is, we love a good party town.
Yeah.
But, I would love to kind of rewind and start from the beginning and understand like what happened, because getting sober oftentimes isn't just something you do on a whim.
Yeah, exactly. No, so I was a blackout drinker. I just consumed to excess. And being sober from alcohol, I noticed that that's a behavior I do a lot, not just with alcohol.
Sure.
But yeah, I was a blackout drinker, and there was just a lot of like internal chaos going on. I didn't start young like a lot of people, I think. I didn't really start drinking until senior year of high school, which for some other people is very young. But to others, they're like 12, 9, right. Very, very young. So it felt like, from more of an addiction perspective, that I got started late. And so for a long, long time, it just didn't feel like I had had enough time to get addicted to something.
Yeah.
And so right in the very, very beginning, what I did was sober Octobers and dry Januaries.
Okay.
But the perspective that I had while I was doing those was not I'm going to do this to be healthy for myself and replace things with exercise or good things. It was more of like, you've gone way too hard. You kind of need to be punished in a way. So you can't have alcohol for 30 days. And so the mindset was more negative, I guess.
Yeah.
When I was doing those things. And so every time I came out of it, it just was another kind of bender for the whole next month.
I'm sure it was.
And so a lot of those happened that didn't bode well for things at home. But I was, and I don't really know what the good term is for it, but the only way I know to describe it is high functioning. Sure. I didn't have all the same repercussions that a lot of people did. At the time, my therapist called those yets, because I kept talking to her, and I was just like, but I don't, I haven't had a DUI, I haven't gone to jail, I'm not, sitting under a bridge with like a bottle in a brown paper sack type deal. And that's when I really started to learn like the definition of addiction and alcoholism, and how it's more behavioral and not necessarily all about the chemical, and stuff like that. So the pinnacle came. My husband and I had a very knockdown, drag out, drunken fight.
Sure.
And that was kind of like my end all be all. And I asked him to go get help. And I pretty much blamed everything on him. And
like an alcoholic.
Oh, yeah. It was all his fault. Nothing was my fault.
Sure.
I wouldn't drink the way that I drank if he wasn't, the way that he was.
Oh, yeah.
Was the story that I told myself. So he ended up going to get help. And I always make fun because I say he brought back all his stupid brochures. And there was like one that was like a Cosmo-esque questionnaire, like if you answer yes to like 10 of these, you might be an alcoholic. And so me being kind of the type A person like that, I just took the test and it's like, maybe I should like look at my relationship with alcohol and why I really drink. And once I started doing that, I started to remember a few instances where I had my own situations and responsibilities and acted in ways that were not a result of, my husband's drinking. And they were purely of my own doing. And so shortly 2 days after he started, I ended up in a 12-step program too.
Yeah. And I think it's something to note, like you said, you didn't get started early. And like, I didn't have my first drink, I think, until I was like 18 or 19.
Yeah.
So, and I totally relate to that. Like, I thought to be like an alcoholic, you had to like at least gone to jail at least once, had a family, lost a family, had a job, lost a job, like this checklist of like, this is how bad your life is supposed to be.
Yep.
And it's supposed to fit into this box. And if not, then you're just in a phase. Or like, I don't know, just like, this is a hard season. Or like you said, it's this person's fault, which I, was, by the time I got sober, I was single. And so I didn't have anybody else to blame it on. So it was always like situation based, or like, this was a bad influence, or I shouldn't be friends with this person. Or like, I don't know, I was on antibiotics and I drank. So it just didn't, that night it wasn't supposed to happen. And it's just, I made so many excuses and so many different colors of the same excuse.
Yeah.
So long. So I totally relate to that. And then there's this part of like getting sober, I feel like young, where I think there's this stigma around what an alcoholic is supposed to look like, and that prevents this knowledge of what a healthy relationship with alcohol is supposed to look like. Instead of just like all the negative things, it's like, I didn't understand what a positive relationship looked like.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that I didn't have that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think that's societal too, right? Especially being at a place like UT where drinking is, the crux of, and like, I mean, I just don't think there's any way to get around it if somebody has an addictive personality in that kind of setting. Like it's inevitable, I feel like, unfortunately. But I mean, even now, like just being in the recovery community, like it is, I think the word alcoholism or alcoholic is like losing its power in a way. That's why I use it. I know there's a lot of people in different situations, they don't want to use it because of, what people think it means. And I kind of like, well, I want to use it because of what people think it means, because I'm a walking example of what, a different definition, I guess. And so I still use it. I still call myself that. I don't think it's a bad term.
No.
people will have their own opinions, but
Well, and if somebody's offended by it, it's like, good, I was an offensive person.
yeah, yeah.
Not
And that's
wrong
what,
to feel that way.
yeah, we kind of make jokes all the time, like when we are hanging out with our sober friends or addiction recovery friends. We're like, oh, we're with a bunch of sober drunks,
Yeah,
and it's just like, yeah, we all were drunks. Like we did things that weren't okay, and we messed up relationships, and but now we're sober. And I think also the point, like, of like the behavior itself being really the point of it,
yeah,
it's not the alcohol, it's that, or at least for me, I should say that for me, I can drink. So this is a good example for me. I don't do well with dairy, so I get oat milk in my coffee. Another day I accidentally got whole milk. For whatever reason, I have a thing with coffee. I love coffee. And even though it had whole milk, I knew the first sip I was going to feel terrible the rest of the day. I drink half of it. That doesn't make sense.
no,
Like, and so it's just like, it's that behavior. And so when I remove the alcohol, that's fine, but that doesn't fix like the reason why I drink so much alcohol.
Yeah.
And that's where I found a lot of benefit in a program, to have like a little bit of a guide. But now I found my own. I kind of hate to say like I found my own way, because I don't want it to sound like that's coming from ego. Like I had to find my way because I'm Cali sober, so I do still use cannabis, and that's not very welcomed in the rooms. It's definitely not welcome to talk
Sure.
about in the rooms. And so I had to work a program that really just focused on the one chemical of alcohol.
Yep.
And within the Sober in Knoxville group, we started some other meetings that are really based in like sheer group community support, called emotional sobriety meetings.
Yeah.
And those were places where people that like didn't want to be in a 12-step program, or maybe had qualms with the spiritual side of a 12-step program, or any sort of format, therapy, even if they couldn't afford therapy. It was a place where they could come and just talk about what they were going through.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of comfort in that, because I still had like a blueprint of a way of living to address the behaviors from my alcoholism, and right my wrongs and all of that. But then I also had a place to go to talk about what I was going through currently, and what I was trying to address currently, and get some more, they call it harm reduction kind of support,
Yeah.
where it wasn't like you should really stop doing that in order to be sober. It was, we totally understand too. I can't put down my vape, and it was, people could talk about vaping, or they could talk about how they stay home all the time. And, we just talk about behaviors more so that are not benefiting us.
Yeah. And there's so many different types of programs, because I will say I started a 12-step program and I would show up drunk. Like I was not a sober human when I started, but I was seeking answers and I was seeking solutions, and I knew things were broken, and I very much felt like I was the most broken thing of all the broken things in my life. But I wanted to blame everything else. And so I worked through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Before it was just me and my bottle that was left. And I was like, well, and I was Cali sober for the first 2 to 3 years of my sobriety as well.
Yeah.
And then that was something that I kind of realized I was in. I love that you brought up emotional sobriety, because you could be dry for a long time and still be as emotionally immature. And
I've met them.
Yeah, but it's like I was really addicted to like the drama that I would create too, and I don't need alcohol to be that version of crazy.
Yeah.
Mine like truly was crazy. I'm not saying everybody's is that way, but I always say like I was a manipulator, I was a blamer, and I was a runner. And you put all those three together and it's like blow up the world and just walk away. And I did that to like a lot of people all the time. And when I finally got out of a specific relationship, that I realized that I was using cannabis to cover more of those feelings, I was like, oh, that means I have a bad relationship with this too, right?
I
Like
know.
I was using it to alter like my mood in my mind. And then I set that aside. And so,
Yeah.
like as soon as that ended, I gave like a week of just absolutely like no contact with anybody, just like enjoying me time. And then I did like a media purge for a month. And then I
Ooh.
realized like, oh, I haven't picked that up.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not blaming this person, but I am saying there was something there that I wasn't confronting. And I feel like I've confronted it, and I feel like I'm at peace with it now. And now it's just like not something that's a part of my recovery, but like I do think we all in a way have our own path that we have to find, because nobody's recovery is like cookie cutter into someone else's. It's like you have to find what works for you and keep doing that thing if it is the thing that's keeping you sober.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think the same way. Like you said, find what works for you. And it was one other thing that I had to do was like separate a program or an idea, like religion, for example, from people. You know, like I had someone tell me, they were like, you know, and I have to be careful of taking things, you know, to an extreme because I'm a binge drinker. So, you know, somebody told me one time, people are fallible. You know, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. That is a person. And that's really hard for me because I always want to just look to one tangible thing, be it a search engine, a person. Like I want a guiding star.
Yeah.
And yeah, just to like, but then, you know, but then people are fallible and they let you down and they don't act according to, you know, a great rule. And I always have to remind myself that I'm not perfect either in that moment. But yeah, like just separating those two, because I think that's what keeps people from getting help a lot of the times, is that they listen to people and they don't listen to solutions.
Yeah.
And kind of figure out how the solution could work for them. And I've seen that keep people from getting help before.
Yeah. And I think that's why we're not supposed to do it alone or supposed to do it in like a silo, because I need my sober community, because I need all of those voices. And sometimes I hear things and I'm like, ooh, that doesn't sound good. And other times I hear things I'm like, that's so bold. I don't think I could ever, you know, and it's like, and you just hear so many different solutions of ways that other people have done it. And I've yet to put a problem or a situation in front of my group of people and have somebody be like, none of us have ever been through that. We don't know how to do it. You're the first. Go pioneer it and try it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and a couple of weeks ago was 7 years for me. That's awesome. Like, I still haven't found the thing where somebody's like, I don't have an answer or a solution or a suggestion for that.
Yeah, that's so true. That is like, we're only alone until we share. Yeah. Like there's somebody somewhere that's gone through something similar.
Yeah. And they live to tell the tale. So
yeah, they're still kicking.
Right. So I am curious though, because I feel like this is one of my favorite things with people that are a little bit more open with like their emotions on it. Yeah. But I feel like there are common threads when we walk into solutions of like how we feel about ourselves and the world around us and how that's shifted. And I would love to know what that experience has been like for you.
So like just kind of my view of myself before and after. So it's it's so when I think before I masked a lot, like I thought that I was like confident and things like that, but it was very much a wall up to make sure that like I didn't get hurt. And that kept me from making and forming relationships a lot of the time. And so I consistently felt alone. Like I never felt like I fit in. I mean, even like I was in a sorority, never really felt like, like I was in my sorority more of a connection for my mom and my granny because they were in the same one, and like, but in the group, I just never felt super a part of as a group collective.
Yeah.
And that's not on the sorority. That has happened to me throughout my life. And it's actually something current that's happening. And it's hard for me to differentiate how much of that is other people and how much of that is me and my perception too.
Yeah.
And so before I would make up so many stories, just all kinds of stories in my head. I should have been a novelist. I would have written like so many fun dramas because that's all that was happening. But it was so funny because it was all internal. Like I would never act on anything. I would just always simmer and just be like, oh, well, they don't like me, so I guess.
And simmering ends so well,
Yeah. And yeah, just kind of make up stories and then like act accordingly. So I would make up a story about someone and be like, oh, well, they obviously don't like me. And I wouldn't necessarily be mean or anything, but I would just assume they didn't like me. And then I'd stop trying to be their friend, or, I wouldn't go out of my way to connect or do stuff like that. And these days I have that kind of pause when I have thoughts like that now, whereas before it was just a running like hamster on a wheel. Like now I have a pause where like a thought can come in, but then I don't necessarily just run to the next thought all the time. Sometimes I do, but most of the time now I have that pause and I can say, okay, who's actually saying this? Like, did this person actually tell me to my face, I do not like you anymore, please don't talk to me? Which never happens, but I think it all the time. And so I have to do a lot of like reality checks because of that. So but that's not a bad thing. It's been a great thing for me because I can respond instead of react. And I can put things into perspective. And to your point, talking to other people about it, that can usually put things in perspective because they'll be like, that sounds crazy. I think so-and-so's probably just busy.
Yeah. I had a friend tell me, it was one of the meanest truths I've ever heard. She was like, nobody thinks about you as much as you do. And I was like, ew.
Yeah. It's so true though. I think about myself all the time.
Like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm self-centered. We'll put that on the list. Got to work on that.
Next.
Right. I'm so thankful though. Like one of the people that I, worked with early on, she was in that like mentor, like in the 12-step program, like a sponsor kind of role. She's a friend now, but when we talked through what goes on up here, she made a list and I was like, oh my God, she's taking notes. And it was like my character defects, just like everything was like, this is what's wrong with you. And then right beside that, she made a list of my assets. And some of them were like, really considerate, inconsiderate. And I was like, what are we talking about?
How can I be both?
She was like, but you do that. You bounce between them. She was like, your brain's kind of sick. And so you just kind of pick your adventure that day. And so that's maybe something to think about. And I was like, but I love that she, that she pointed those things out. And I still reference that because I feel like sometimes I give myself grace in really hard situations where maybe I'm like ashamed to confront like how I actually was. And then in other situations, I will beat myself up for like my thoughts, even just like my thoughts. I didn't even act like you said, I didn't even act on it. It was just like up here, and I'll beat myself. I'll like harder on myself than anybody else ever would be. And so having something that's like tangible to reference and like people to be like, am I crazy? And then like get some feedback. It really helps me because like I am not a good manager of myself.
Yeah, I can think that I am, but then the spiraling starts and I'm like, okay, I can't do this on my own.
Oh, this wasn't good. Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody that maybe is considering sobriety or like maybe they're kind of in that spot where they are facing these consequences, and they're like, but I'm not under a bridge with a brown paper bag, but also I feel like I'm blowing my life up every other month.
Yeah. I used to hate hearing this at first because I was like, you can't just blanket statement that, or whatever, kind of like we were talking, it's different for everybody. But I think it's truer and truer as I think on it more. But it's like, if you're questioning it, then, like people that have healthy relationships with alcohol don't question their relationship with alcohol. So it's
So
just
true.
like, and I think that's what I had to come to terms with, was just like, if I'm sitting here having the dry Januaries and sober Octobers because I've been binging the month before, or, whatever, like those reasons, then I probably do need to take a deeper dive. There are genuine people that do it because they're like, I don't drink that much anyways, and I'm going to do 4 5Ks in January.
Yeah, I know those
Power
people
to you.
suck.
You're not questioning. Yeah, you're not questioning your relationship with alcohol. You are just like,
you're just a healthy person getting healthier.
You're strengthening your relationship with 5Ks. Like, I don't have one of those yet. So yeah, I used to hear that and just be like, no, because some people this and that. But I do think that, like, even if, I don't know, because I could put it down. I could put it down for 30 days, but the behavior was still the same. And like, kind of like we said, like, there's this idea of a dry drunk where I wasn't addressing the emotional part of it. And so I mean, I also, my path was definitely more of like a gradual wading in the water and then get to the deep end, where some people, they need help right away, right then and there, and they need to jump into the deep end of recovery. And I consider that more like in the form of like a rehab or something like that. Whereas me, I was definitely more in, like I said, that kind of gradual thing. I dipped my toe in the program. It took me like a year to really be like, okay, yeah, I'll do this. And then, of course, with the Cali sober stuff, still working on that. So, maybe I'll be 100 fully, no mind altering things in my life when I'm like 60. I don't know. Maybe it'll be when I'm 40. But my life is infinitely better now that I've cut alcohol out of it. And that's all I can focus on is those parts.
I think making those plans is also dwelling, right? Like I'm going to do it tomorrow, maybe next year, maybe at this point. And it's like, I don't know what, like, projecting things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, unless if it's a bucket list of like, maybe I'll go to Italy.
Yeah. And you have to like save money.
Yeah. But I think it's so important what you said of like, if you're questioning things, then it might already be a problem. And like, I wish that I had heard that earlier, because I was questioning my relationship with alcohol well before I got sober.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know. I love that I have truth tellers in my life that'll be like, nope, this is what it, like, in love, because they want to see me live, because I was at the point where it's like, it was getting really risky to keep drinking.
Yeah.
But I just think it's so important. Like we were talking about at the beginning of, I didn't know what a normal relationship with alcohol was. It turns out, if you're thinking about all the time and counting your drinks and planning ahead and like, okay, but if I take this little bit with me, I only have to get 2 when I'm out. So that is not a normal relationship with alcohol.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I had no clue. People just went out and lived their lives and would drink half a drink and walk away from it.
Yeah, that was always bizarre to me. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I would also say, like, I think we both have like fine community, and I think, and that's a big reason why I did the sober and Knoxville stuff at first, was because of some of the feelings I was going through with the program. And they have obviously a spiritual aspect of it, and there's not a lot of people that jump on board with that right away. So so if you can't find your own community, which there's a bajillion like online ones,
yes,
like, don't be afraid to make your own. and it's not going to jump off right away. Like we might have had one or two people at those emotional sobriety meetings at first, but now there's 3 of them and they run on their own. And we're going to start one out here at the bar.
Amazing.
And so it's just like, if you can't find it, create it. And also look online, because I'm in some Facebook groups that are Cali sober friendly. And so that helps me have a community of people that are supportive of that. Whereas I also have the community of that blueprint type of program for the alcohol piece. So it doesn't all have to come from one place.
Yeah. No, the online community, I think, is some of my favorite communities have been online. And what I love about it is like they're also all over. So it doesn't matter what time zone you live in. It doesn't matter, like, even there are like ways to find things and people. So when you travel, you can like meet up with people there.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things to do, because I traveled a lot for work at my old job. And I would do that. And it was really fun to meet like sober people all over the place and of all different lifestyles. And I loved that. And I had, like, if you had told me 10 years ago that that's what I would be doing when I traveled, I wouldn't have believed you, but it is so fun.
Yeah. I remember like just the sheer isolation of being in public places. Like I would think I needed to drink to meet people, and so then I would be social, but I would be drunk, so I wouldn't remember anybody. So I was not making friends. And like now I make friends all the time. I meet strangers and then I can remember their name. Not all the time. I am a visual person, so sometimes it's hard to remember names, but it's not a result of the alcohol, anymore. And then I'm not embarrassed when I see them a second time to be like, I'm horrible with names, because before it would be like, I was blackout drunk and I don't remember you, sorry. And now it's like, I'm just kind of bad with names. Do you mind, sharing what your name is again?
Yeah. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation.
Oh, thanks.
If somebody is interested in A, learning about your business and supporting you guys, or B, maybe they are looking for that community and this resonated with them and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way for somebody to find you?
The Daisy's Bar is on Facebook and Instagram, so that's the easiest, at Daisy's NA Bar. And then any of the emails on that stuff, you can find me on, because it's just me behind all the emails now, so it's not going anywhere but to me. And then if anybody, my Instagram page is public, actually, so at Lindsay Elston. If anybody does prefer to reach out directly, I'm open to that too.
Well, Lindsay, this has been fantastic. Thank you again for being vulnerable and sharing your story. It has been so fun to catch up with you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
And to everybody else, we will see you next time.